Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast Special Edition Saturday show. The reason why we are recording today is because a very big news story broke by ESPN's Adam Schefter and Jeff Darlington about 2 hours ago that Tom Brady is retiring from football after 22 years in the league, 20 with the Patriots and 2 with the Buccaneers. Feels like 25 years, almost 25 years, but 22 years in the league, 15-time Pro Bowler, 7-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time NFL MVP, 2-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year, the 2009 Comeback Player of the Year, 3-time first-teamer All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro, including this season. He led the league in touchdown passes 5 times, passing yards leader 4 times, passer rating leader twice, completion percentage leader twice, made the All-Decade team for the 2000s, made the 2010s All-Decade team unanimous, the 100th anniversary All-Time team unanimous, and was a 1997 national champion with the Michigan Wolverines. The AP Male Athlete of the Year, once in the 2-time Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year. What an absolute fabulous career for the guy who I feel is the best quarterback of my lifetime, especially my time watching the NFL. I became a fan of the NFL back in 2007. I was a young girl, and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were the best 2 quarterbacks in the league at the time. And he went undefeated that season. And that was the first season where he lost in the Super Bowl to my beloved New York Football Giants. And his second time he lost the Super Bowl was the Giants 4 years later. And then his other career Super Bowl loss was against the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2017-18 season. And all 3 of those Super Bowl losses were close. So you could make a case that there is a possibility out there where Tom Brady was a 10-time Super Bowl champion. Obviously, the first Super Bowl was against the Rams in the 2001 season. Or was it the 2002 season? It was the 2001 season. And then the 2003 season, they defeated the Panthers in the Super Bowl. In the 2004 season, they defeated the Eagles and Donovan McNabb in the Super Bowl. We talked about a second ago, 2007, they lost to the Giants. 2008 was the year he blew out his injury, the ACL. And that injury snapped a streak of 111 consecutive starts for Brady. Then he came back in 2009 and won the Comeback Player of the Year. 2010, he got his second MVP award. They lost in the playoffs that year to the Jets. 2011 season, he was I believe they were the 1 seed in the AFC in 2011, and then they lost to the Giants in that Super Bowl, as I alluded to earlier. Beat the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. And by the way, that is a what-if for them, too. What if Justin Tucker makes that field goal against the Ravens, or against the Patriots? So they held on 23-20. If Billy Cundiff makes that kick, that game goes to overtime. Maybe Joe Flacco goes down the field. They win the coin toss, and they go down the field goal. Now it's before they change the rules. Maybe they kick a field goal and end it. So that is like a huge what if. And in the 12 and 13 seasons, they lost in the playoffs early. 2012, they were in the AFC Championship game. They lost to the Ravens. 2013, I think, was one of the weaker Patriot teams in Brady's career, especially in that second half of his Patriots career. And they lost to Denver in the AFC Championship game. Denver and Peyton Manning. 2014 season, they played the Seahawks in the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl in the 2014 14-15 season, and now is the year where Russell Wilson threw the pick in the end zone instead of handing it off to Marshawn Lynch. So that's another what if in the other direction in terms of Super Bowl wins. In the 2015 season, they lost in the AFC title game to Peyton Manning and the Broncos in Peyton Manning's final season. And the 2017 season was one of his better seasons. That was, I think, his last great Patriots season where he won the MVP that season. And then they ultimately won the Super Bowl that year too. And he won the MVP the next year. In the 16 season, that's the 17 season he won the MVP. The 16 season, he was in the conversation for the MVP. And that was the year that they beat the Steelers in the AFC Championship game, and ultimately they were in the Super Bowl down 28-3 to the Falcons, and Matt Ryan was the MVP that year. Patriots come back and win that game. I think that was Brady's finest moment of his career, coming back from 28-3 down against the Falcons. And Matt Ryan, he wins that Super Bowl MVP solely because of that comeback. And that was the game in which I believe it was James White had that career game, and he had the game-winning touchdown in overtime in the Super Bowl that year. And then the 2017-18 season, he won the MVP, and that was when they lost to the Eagles and Nick Foles in the Super Bowl. And Brady fumbled in that game, and that's like a what if. If Brady doesn't fumble, they probably win that Super Bowl too. And then the 2018 season, the Patriots won the Super Bowl again. And that was the year they beat the Rams 13-3, and Julian Edelman was the Super Bowl MVP that year. And then the next year was 2019-20. They lost in the first round to Derrick Henry and the Titans, just as the Titans were coming into their own, into what they are now. And then that was iconically Brady's last game as a Patriot, where he threw the pick six as his last pass as a Patriot. And then ultimately he leaves the Patriots, goes to the Bucs, wins the Super Bowl in the first Bucs season in his home stadium. Of course, Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl in his home stadium with the Bucs and Bruce Arians. And then obviously this past season, they lose to the Rams in that wild playoff game, which they're down 27-3, and Brady leads the comeback. But ultimately, they fall short as Matthew Stafford made some plays, and Matt Gay kicks the game-winning field goal against his former team in the Buccaneers. And now I think that Brady saw the outlook for the Bucs long-term and saw Godwin free agent, Fournette free agent, a bunch of other free agents around the team, and he probably said, you know what, that comeback, even though he lost, was a good way for me to go out. I don't want to go out poorly like some of these other quarterbacks did, like Ben Roethlisberger and Eli Manning. I mean, Peyton Manning, as bad as he was his last season, he ended his career with the Super Bowl. So you got to hand it to him like that. And Tom Brady, I think, looked at Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, and Ben Roethlisberger, and Phil Rivers, and Drew Brees to some degree, and said, I don't want to look washed up like those other quarterbacks did. I want to go out on a high road. And that is certainly what he did. And now he goes on to the sunset and gets to spend life with his wife, Giselle, and his children. And it's just coming down right now. As Tom Brady called Jason Licht to inform him that he's not made up his mind about retiring or playing. So, that is very strange. And the TB12 account deleted the tweet. And Brady's verified sports account deleted a farewell retirement tweet. And apparently Tom Brady hadn't told the Buccaneers about retirement and didn't know that this was coming. And then Adam Schefter says His decision to retire was based on several factors, including family health and Bucks roster turnover, like I had mentioned. So this is kind of wild that this is very strange that this really isn't like a done deal yet, according to Tom Brady. But Adam Schefter says it's a done deal, and you know how I feel about Adam Schefter. And I think that ultimately he will retire. But now the question is it really today, tomorrow, anytime within the next couple weeks, or couple years? So this is kind of wild. I'm sitting here recording the podcast, and it's come out that he's not retiring. And A.J. Brown, ironically, of the Tennessee Titans, was the first person to, like, hint at it, as he said, first he says, at 2:50 p.m., not the news you wanted to see today, but also appreciative to witness greatness. Congratulations on retirement, Tom Brady. And then, like a half an hour later he goes, I truly believe Tom Brady isn't done with playing football. The urge to want to more is going to drive him insane. So what's next for quote-unquote me is all you know. I think he will relax for a few days or weeks, but his mind of an ultimate competitor will soon speak to him again. When you accomplish so much over and over again and always seeking for the next accomplishment, I truly believe you can't just walk away free from it with your own strength. I believe the game has to remove you from it. Unless he finds a new hobby, he'll be back, quote unquote, my opinion. So that is wild, and A.J. Brown, like, hinted at it. And, Kylan Mills, a anchor and reporter for K-Ron 4 News in the Bay Area, says Tom Brady Sr., which is his father, tells the news station that his son is not retiring. Brady Sr. says in an online publication started circulating an unsubstantiated rumor. However, a number of NFL insiders are now reporting it. So that is very strange. And Jeff Maglicetti, who is a frequent guest on the podcast, tweeted out, watch, Brady's retirement is all a setup for a Super Bowl commercial, like when Danny McBride was supposedly doing Crocodile Dundee sequel that turned out to be an ad for Australian tourism, perhaps a capper to Gronk's attempts to defraud the USAA. So, that's interesting. I could totally see Tom Brady doing something like that, but if he did do something like that, that would take the shine away off of the 2 of the 4 teams that are in the Super Bowl. So, but the weird thing about this, even if these rumors were not circulating about that he's not actually retiring, like, the timing of this is very weird. Like, why would this come out on a Saturday, the eve of the AFC and the NFC championship games, and that be the dominating storyline of the weekend, and it'll completely take away from the 4 teams that are still alive vying for berths in the Super Bowl in the 49ers, Rams, Bengals, and Chiefs, respectively. So, it's interesting for sure, and we are obviously going to keep tabs on this throughout the rest of the weekend and such, and throughout the next couple of days. And the funny thing is that, so Schefter breaks the news, and all these athletes are tweeting tributes and whatnot from various different sports. So we'll see if Kylan Mills is right or not. Maybe Brady's parents are lying. But yeah, what is happening is right. Pro Football Focus tweeted that out. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how this all played out. And it's very interesting because Tom Brady is Tom Brady. He's the best athlete of my lifetime that I watched. And since I've gotten into sports, not just football, it's all the sports. Better than LeBron, better than everybody. Derek Jeter, A-Rod, Peyton Manning, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady's the GOAT. Kobe Bryant, you name it. So I think Tom Brady's the greatest athlete of my generation, too. I've said this on my podcast several times. So, it's going to be very interesting to see how Tom Brady approaches this. Jeff Schwartz, this is funny. Tom Brady for Comeback Player of the Year in 2022. So, I was supposed to do a podcast tonight regardless whether Brady has retired or not. And the reason why I was going to do a show today was because the New York Giants hired Brian DeBall to be their next head coach. And I was going to be joined by James Celestin of Sports Dudes to talk about the hire with me. I'm still going to do that later. But we're obviously going to be talking some Tom Brady as well because we got to talk about Tom Brady. I mean, who can't talk about Tom Brady on a day where this crazy news comes out? What it's retiring, he's not retiring, and it's a mixed bag right now. So, yeah, we'll keep tabs on that, obviously, and I'll be joined by James here on the show in a couple of moments. So stick around for that. And the irony is that Chris Godwin, his teammate, the best ever. Congratulations, bro. At Tom Brady, grateful to have gotten to share the field with you. Much love, fam. Oh, this is a great tweet. Retirement gate. Oh my God. That is the best tweet I've seen all day. Instead of Spygate and Deflategate, retirement gate. And then that's something we obviously didn't touch on when we talked about Tom Brady. Yes, there are some wrongdoings in Tom Brady's career, but the Patriots overcame them and won Super Bowls after Spygate and Deflategate. So, not many organizations and players are able to overcome turmoil like Tom Brady and the Patriots did, and they did. I mean, there's Kobe Bryant parallels with the turmoil stuff from a off the stage or court or field standpoint. In Kobe's case, off the court standpoint, which we discussed when Kobe passed away. And same goes to Tom. Like, he overcame his off-field issues and helped his teams win. So we got to see more reporting on this, obviously. So we'll be back with James in a little bit. All right. Now I'm joined by the one and only James Celestin from the Sports Dudes here to talk some Giants football. But first, we have to talk about something important and big time that happened today. It was announced that Tom Brady will retire. But then again, there are reports circling that he's not retiring and such. What do you make of all this, James?
This is very, very, very wild. And I say wild because, at first I thought I couldn't believe it because you're talking about a guy who says he wanted to play till he was 45. He's going to be 45 come August 3rd. And he came on the podcast. I believe it was with Jim Nance or something, and he was talking about his family. He mentioned Kobe, saying that like how there's not an that life is precious and that he wants to spend every moment with his daughter. So it seemed intimate that he was thinking about retirement. And then one thing with athletes, when you think about retirement, you're pretty much already retired. And it started last night with a breaking news from CBS Sports with Jason Lockenfor about Brady hinting at retirement, and then breaking news with Darlington and Adam Schefter, and then we get all the way to like Bruce Arrington. He hasn't told them, so it's interesting to see what's going to happen these coming days. But leave it to Brady taking the spotlight away from the two title games, and we're leading off the show talking about Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, anything involving Tom Brady, you gotta lead with Tom Brady. There's no mistake around that. I was just as stunned as you were when I saw the report from Schefter and Darlington. I actually missed the La Conforo report. It was my birthday yesterday, so I was out and about with the family, so I missed that one. Although I did see the ball, obviously, but I missed the Jason La Conforo report. It's surprising that he dropped that last night. But when I saw the Schefter and Darlington report, I had to do a double take. I'm like, is this real? And I was like, holy crap. I was in the middle of watching a movie and I stopped it. And then I did the previous segment before I had you on discussing the retirement. And then as I was recording, came in the news that he might not be retiring. And it's just absolutely wild what's going on right now. And I'm very interested to see what is going to actually happen here. So what did you make of the reports that he might not retire? And it actually started with A.J. Brown of the Tennessee Titans, by the way. And then it was Bruce Arians and then Brady's father. And then that started circulating. So what do you make of all that?
I think it's very interesting because it's like, they're hearing reports, they didn't hear it from Brady. I think at the end of the day, I think Brady is really torn about coming back or retiring before people jump on Adam Schefter and Jeff Darlington know that these are two of the best reporters and usually everything they report is spot on. I think Brady really is torn about if he wants to step away or wants to keep playing. But I do think he's really thinking about this decision. I think he's thinking about his football mortality. But one thing is for certain, I personally think he'll either retire and go off, having the best statistical season of his career, or he'll come back, but it will be his last year. You also remember he has the TB12 and he has other business adventures. And Brady, and according to Darlington, Brady did not want to have a farewell tour like what Ben Roethlisberger did or other athletes did. I think Brady really is torn about coming back or retiring. I think he really wants to be a dad to his kids and be a husband to his wife. So a lot of interesting factors going into this Brady decision.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the podcast with Jim Nance that he hinted at retirement. And I thought that, he's hinting at retirement. I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year. But before the news came out today, I was thinking, oh, maybe he'll ride it back one more year with the Buccaneers or even elsewhere. But hey, you never know still with what's been reported and what's being reported by other outlets. So it's still a crazy situation going on right here. But I have a little bit of a conspiracy theory that I hinted at you while I was texting you earlier. Do you want to hear it?
Let's hear it.
All right, so Tom Brady obviously has Man in the Arena, right?
Right.
It is getting close to the finale. And if I'm not mistaken, the whole thing's been recorded, but all the episodes are still running, right?
Yes.
My conspiracy theory, and by the way, I gotta give credit where credit's due. Art Stapleton, who covers the Giants, threw this out there, and I tend to agree with him. He said, isn't it possible that Brady wanted to wait until the last episode of his documentary, which is The Man in the Arena, before announcing his retirement? So I thought, oh, is he going to announce it in the final episode of Man in the Arena? I think that would be pretty cool.
That would be dope.
I think that would be absolutely dope too. And that's just a theory that Art Stapleton threw out. And I thought the idea, oh, hey, maybe he can announce in the last episode of Man in the Arena. And somebody who I follow on Twitter and has been a guest on the podcast, you know who Jeff Maglicetti is? You probably follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
He threw out a good conspiracy theory too. I got to give Jeff some credit. He said, watch, Brady's retirement is all a setup for a Super Bowl commercial Like when Danny McBride was supposedly doing a Crocodile Dundee sequel that turned out to be an ad for Australian tourism, perhaps a capper to Gronk's attempt to defend the USAA.
That one's funny. I don't think that one's likely. I think the Stapleton one is very interesting. I mean, let's think about it. He's a recording man. You're talking about Brady's career from his college, from like when he started playing football to college to the NFL to the 3 runs in the Super Bowl to the 2 giant losses to the 1 loss he had to the Eagles. Um, I truly think, and this has always been my thing, when an athlete, and it goes back to what I said earlier, when an athlete thinks about retirement, Madison, they're pretty much retired. An athlete is always thinking about doing better, the next game, improvement. But if you're already thinking about your post career, then you already retired because you're not going to put 100% in. Now, there's probably a chance that Brady says, I'm going to come back for 1 more year, and this will be his last year. Could be, but I don't want to discredit Darlington and Schefter though. So if you have to ask me right now, my gut is gonna tell me that he's probably gonna make a formal announcement, whether it's through a press conference or maybe his man in the arena, as that he will officially retire, and I think he'll go off in the sunset because I don't think there's anything left to prove. He has every quarterback record. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has 7 Super Bowl championships, and he's done the impossible from a 6th round pick to being the greatest quarterback of all time. He's done everything. So I don't see what else is there left to prove.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And the other thing is that I'm having ESPN on. Adam Schefter's talking right now in the middle of a halftime of a college basketball game, and they're showing the clips of Brady congratulating Odell Beckham Jr. and other Rams players from that Rams game, and it looked like lengthy hugs and such. So maybe some of these players had an idea. And what was interesting to me is that Chris Godwin, his teammate, tweeted out a congratulations, and Bruce Arians said that he didn't tell them that whether he was retiring or not. So this is just absolutely wild, this story. And I agree with you. I think it's going to be Man in the Arena. I was thinking maybe Players Tribune. Maybe he reaches out to his buddy Derek Jeter and he announces it through Players Tribune. That's another potential possibility, right?
That could be. He is good. He is good friends with Jeter, and he did rent it. I believe he rented Jeter's home when he first moved down to Tampa. So that could be That could also be a possibility. Writing in the Players Tribune or doing it his own way, the TB12 way. But Brady doesn't strike me as a farewell kind of guy. I don't know. I feel like he's one of those I'm gonna announce it and just keep it moving.
Yeah, and I like how Ben Roethlisberger announced his retirement. Did you see that video that the Steelers posted?
Oh, I saw that. I thought that was very perfect and poignant, and I'm really happy that he's retired. And that's just a perfect way to go out. I did love the Eli Manning. Gave him a shout out to that '04 draft class. And I have to ask you this: you remember the legendary draft class with Eloy Marino, and then we got the '04 our lifetimes with Big Ben, Eli, and Rivers.
Yep.
Is the '04 draft class one of the best quarterback draft class in modern NFL history?
Yes, no doubt about it. You have two-time Super Bowl champions in Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger, and you have another guy who is a Hall of Fame worthy quarterback in Philip Rivers. I know Rivers didn't have the best teams around him in the first half of his prime. The latter half of his prime, when he was in decline, was where I felt his better teams were, when he had Joey Bosa and Keenan Allen show up, and some of those guys that they had on that roster. But you can't discount what Philip Rivers did too. But Eli and Roethlisberger, I think, deserve a big shout with Rivers. I think that is a top-notch quarterback class as well. If I'm not mistaken, Larry Fitzgerald, that draft class as a whole is fantastic. Larry Fitzgerald's in that draft class. Wasn't The guy that passed away from Washington. Oh my God, Taylor.
Sean Taylor.
Wasn't he in that class too?
Yes, he was. Sean Taylor was on the verge of being a Hall of Fame before he tragically passed away.
Yup. Sean Taylor was a great player, and the Giants played against him a lot because he was on Washington. He was great. That class as a whole is great, not just the three quarterbacks, but that '04 draft class as a whole, insane. And then another one, was it? Oh my God, one of the good running backs was in that draft too. Was it the guy on the from oh, who was it that was in that class? One of the running backs.
Was it shoot. You talking about the running back from why am I blanking on the name?
I'm blanking on the name too.
I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking.
I have the '04 draft class pulled up. So it was Eli Manning, Robert Gallery, not a Pro Bowler.
No, not him.
That was an offensive tackle. Larry Fitzgerald, Phil Rivers, Sean Taylor, Kellen Winslow. That's a good tight end.
Oh, yeah.
Roy Williams, good wide receiver. D'Angelo Hall.
That was a solid corner. Very, very solid.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Jason Peters, Hall of Fame left tackle. You don't forget about him.
Oh, yeah. But there was a running back in this class, too. Oh, Steven Jackson.
Steven Jackson was a very, very good running back.
That's who it was. I knew it was somebody that was really good in, like, the early 2010s, late 2000s. Chris Snead's in that class.
Chris Snead,
Vince Wilfork. Chris Snead was Tom Coughlin's nephew or something, or son-in-law.
Yes, he was.
Chris Cooley, the tight end.
Oh, don't forget Jared Allen.
Jared Allen. Matt Schaub.
Schaub was a decent quarterback.
He was a decent quarterback for a little bit. Backup for Atlanta and Houston.
Benjamin Watson was really, really good. Let's not discredit. And also, don't forget the hard-hitting safety, Bob Sanders.
Bob Sanders, yup. But yeah, a ton of people. Andy Lee, the punter.
Oh, he was a good punter. Also,
he's still in the league, I think.
Yeah?
I think he's the Cardinals punter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he is.
Yup, you mentioned Jason Peters.
Darnell Dockett.
Yup.
Dockett was really,
Wes Welker.
Another really good player.
Wow, this was a great draft class.
And also, don't forget Sean Phillips. He was a very, very good defensive end for a while. So that draft class as a whole was very, very good. I think the '04 draft class in our lifetime as not only the three quarterbacks, that will go down as the best draft class in modern history because you have guys that are like future Hall of Famers and very, very, very good players.
Yeah, and then as of 2022, the only active players from this draft are Andy Lee and Jason Peters.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jason Peters, if I'm Jason Peters with too many injuries, I think it's time to hang up. He's a Hall of Famer. Andy Lee has been doing it for such a long time.
And the irony here is that in Brady's draft class in '99, Donovan McNabb was in that draft class.
Yes, he was drafted by the Eagles, and he got booed. And he turned out to have a very, very good career.
Yeah, Donald Driver was in that draft class. Remember him?
Oh, Donald Driver was a very solid receiver for Brett Favre. Yeah, like 99 was good, like '04 was legendary, and it just goes into saying that like if you draft right, you'll do well. And to stick back to original with Brady, what are you gonna, let's take, we're Giants fans, obviously we're very grateful for the 2 rings that our team beat them in, but what are you gonna look back and if this is the end for Tom Brady, what are you gonna remember most about Tom Brady?
Oh, man. What I remember most about Tom Brady, even though the Giants beat him twice, the comeback from 28-3 down. I said that earlier when I did my solo shot for this show. 28-3 was the best moment of his career. And by the way, it was the 2000 draft. That's a mistake by me, not 99. It was 2000. I got the number wrong. So he was in the same draft class as Brian Urlacher, who's a Hall of Famer, Sean Alexander. A bunch of guys are in this draft with Brady. Dante Hall.
And guess what? Brady was better than all of them.
Oh, yeah, of course. But yeah, the Donald Driver draft class was the year before. This one was with Brady was the Brian Urlacher, Chris Samuels, Courtney Brown was number 1 overall pick that year. He wasn't a Pro Bowler. Oof.
Ooh, that was bad.
Sebastian Janikowski was drafted in the first round that year. The former
Oh my,
Raider kicker.
oh my God. He had a leg. He had a leg.
He had a leg. And guess who else was drafted in Brady's quarterback year? Jets fans might want to think about this one. Chad Pennington. To be fair, he was good for a while.
I think Paddington's biggest problem was that his arm was not as strong enough to last, and that's the problem. He was very accurate. He was pinpoint accurate, but he could never push the ball down the field as much because his arm was never that strong, and that was his downfall. If he had a strong enough career, he could have had a very good career. Not Hall of Fame, but he would have had a longer and very good career. But his arm just kind of
Yeah, I remember when he was at the end of his Jet days, and then he went to the Dolphins. Didn't he help the Dolphins 13-3?
Yes, he did.
I think they went like 13-3, some crazy record. That was the year the Jets had Favre, and they went 8-8.
Yep.
Brady blew out. That was the year Brady blew out his ACL.
Yep, and that was the only injury that Brady ever had. The only time he missed the game was he blew out his ACL in 2008 against the Chiefs, and then he got suspended for his role in Deflategate.
Yep, and then Spygate was another like down of Brady's career. But to be fair, the Patriots overcame the turmoil that was the Deflategate, and then before that Spygate, and then they overcame it and won.
I think what I remember most about Tom Brady is the fact that he always defined the odds. I mean, yeah, you can look at 28-3. You can look at the fact that he was down against that Legion of Boom defense and scored. I think it was 14 unanswered points.
That's right. They were down double digits against Legion of Boom.
Like you can look at all of those, but what I remember most about Brady is always that his competitive drive always wanted to be the best, and for athletes like that, you always admire greatness, and even in like defeat, Brady always remembers the losses more than the wins, because when an athlete, it's easy to look at the wins and be like, hey man, I won, but he always said in the interview like the loss that hurts him the most is that '07 loss to the Giants. That will always hurt him because he still wants that perfect season so badly. And in one of the Man in the Mirror episodes, he wanted that perfect season so badly, and he was so upset that he never got that perfect season.
Yeah, exactly. And before we move on to the Giants, what this is something I didn't discuss earlier. We talked about like playoff moments from Tom Brady. What about a regular season Tom Brady moment that stood out to you, good or bad? Well, let's focus on good.
Ooh.
I know we talk about bad in terms of like the Giants Super Bowl losses and the Eagles loss, which we mentioned earlier, but how about a good Tom Brady moment from the regular season that stands out to you?
I I think, and Bills fans, you might want to like cover your ears. When he got his 700 touchdown against the Bills, and he got Emperor Sean Perryman beat them in overtime, and Brady will forever own the Buffalo Bills. So sorry, Bills fans, don't mean to give you guys more heartbreak, but there you go.
Yeah, something that stood out for me for Tom Brady in the regular season. I remember the 2013 season, the Patriots were just not a great team. And I'll never forget that they played the Saints. This was the 4 o'clock game on Fox. Joe Buck wasn't calling the game. I think it was Tom Brenneman that was calling the game with Aikman that day because Buck had the World Series, because the World Series was going on. And it was October. They were playing the Saints in Gillette Stadium. And Tom Brady was going at it with Drew Brees. And the Patriots, without Rob Gronkowski, without Julian Edelman, pull out the win miraculously. I forget who it was that caught the game-winning touchdown for New England. But I remember it was that 4 o'clock game on Fox. And then Brady brought them back to beat Drew Brees, Sean Payton, and the Saints. So I think that to me is just a testament to Tom Brady and how he got a lot out of no name players per se.
That's what Brady does, man. Brady gets a lot out of guys, Deion Branch, and all the other players that he that wasn't necessarily like great. He's gotten a lot of it. I mean, and the one thing I'm gonna give Tom Brady before we move on, the fact that he had characters like Gronk, who's a great. He had Aaron Hernandez, he had Antonio Brown. Not necessarily the greatest of characters, but the fact that he's able to make it work with these type of characters, aside from Gronk, because Gronk is cool, and for the fact that he won a Super Bowl with a likes of an Antonio Brown, that says a lot that Brady's able to deal with guys like who's had checkered past. I mean, Randy Moss had his greatest season with Tom Brady. I mean, that is crazy. The fact that when Brady had those great players, he ended up putting up unbelievable numbers, and he even won with guys that are not necessarily household names, but still able to win. It just shows to a testament of like Brady is just a really good quarterback. The 3 MVPs, that he's won, the multiple time All Pros, the quarterback record, the 7 Super Bowls. Man, I'm just remember most of that he's just a winner, and he's like the Bill Russell of NFL quarterbacks. Where he's a winner. He is a winner. That's all I remember Brady as a winner.
Yeah, to me, Brady and Jordan have to be the best athletes over the last 40 years. But I was not into basketball when Jordan was still playing. Like, Jordan retired like in 2000, I want to say it was 2001 or 2002, 2003, something like that. And I wasn't really into basketball until like the middle of that decade. So for me, Brady and LeBron are in my Mount Rushmore of athletes, and it's debatable who the baseball athlete is. And in hockey, I think is up for debate now too. It would have been Crosby, but I think the hockey player in my Mount Rushmore is up in the air right now. But we'll talk about that another day. So last night we talked about it earlier in the show. The Giants picked the head coach, and they hire away Brian DeBall from the Buffalo Bills to be their next head coach. DeBall, obviously the offensive coordinator from Buffalo, and Joe Shane, their new general manager, came over from Buffalo as well. I think this connection makes so much sense, and I absolutely think this is a home run hire for the New York Football Giants.
This is exactly what I'm glad that John Mara did. If you look at John Mara when he fired Joe Judge, and he admitted that what the Giant did was wrong, and he wanted to go outside the organization, and he hired Joe Shane. I think what he did was he empowered Joe Shane to hire his guy, because I'm pretty sure if it was up to John Mara and Chris Mara, they would have hired Flores. Not to say Flores was a bad choice, but you're not empowering the GM to make a choice for his guy. And obviously, no one really has full autonomy, but it does come down to like his recommendation, and the fact that Mara allowed this to happen, it just goes to show that Mara is actually listening and realizing that the way that the Giants used to do things don't work, and the fact that you're hiring a guy from Buffalo who was instrumental in the success of Josh Allen. Not to say that he's going to be Josh Allen, but to say that he actually helped in the success of Josh Allen. And who could not only help Daniel Jones, but help this entire offense get back on track. It is a slam dunk home run hire. Sometimes the simple answer is the right answer, and I think it is a great hire. I think he's going to fix the offense that has been ailing the Giants for so long. Will Daniel Jones prove that he can be a franchise quarterback? Who knows? But at least we know one thing: we have our answer. We have an answer at our coach, and we trust the people making the decisions. So I'm really excited for this hire, and I think it's a really good move by the Giants.
I absolutely agree with you. But a lot of people have floated at this idea on Twitter, and I tend to agree. This hire wasn't about Daniel Jones. This hire was about the team, per se. And they can say all they want about Daniel Jones. It sounds like they sound committed to him and whatnot. But sometimes you're lied to by the people that run the show. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility of a different quarterback per se. Although I do think they're going to keep Jones because the other options are not enticing. I don't think they want to give up multiple first round picks for Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson per se, or draft somebody in the draft even though they have two picks because there's no good quarterbacks that stand out. So I do support the decision to stick with Daniel Jones because what else is out there? And that is my argument to keeping Daniel Jones around.
Yeah, you're not gonna like. There's no quarterback out there. You're not gonna tell me that Marcus Mariota will be the guy or anything. You're not getting Deshaun Watson. John Murray even said you're not getting Deshaun Watson. Um, like Daniel, I still wouldn't pick up the fifth year option. It feels like they're gonna pick up the fifth year option. I wouldn't do that, but I think this is more of a team thing because whether Jones is the quarterback or not, and I've had my trepidations on Jones, this is about the organization, and I think Daniel Jones is the best option right now. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's the guy for the future. Now, does that mean that Dable could draft a Willis or Kenny Pickett? Probably. But would I do it? No. Does that mean the Giants, trade one of their picks back, get a pick next year, and get a quarterback in 2023 draft class that includes a certain quarterback from Alabama? You know, who knows? But I do think this is goes into Joe Shane's philosophy where he's going to compete today and build for tomorrow.
I agree with that strategy. Compete for today and build for tomorrow. I really, really like that a lot. And I do think they're ultimately going to stick with Jones, but I don't think they'll pick up the fifth year option because didn't they not pick up the fifth year option for Saquon Barkley?
No, they did.
They they did. Okay. Because I wasn't sure if they did or not because he was coming off the injury and whatnot. And don't forget about Daniel Jones. He's had several injuries already to this point. That's the case against Daniel Jones, other than the inconsistent play.
I think the injuries are going to be the reason why they don't pick up the fourth year option. Because I think injuries alone does cause for trepidation. Even though Mara did admit that they've done everything they can to screw this kid up, which I'm glad that Mara took a self evaluation of himself and realized that their way of doing it was wrong. Essentially proving my own theory, Max, in that the only reason why Tate Gelman was hired was to give Eli one more kick at the can, and I was dead right about that.
Oh, you were. And the Saquon Barkley pick was that too.
Yep, I was. See, I was dead right, which I was also dead right on my other theories that McAdoo wanted McAdoo wanted
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes, and Sherman wanted Josh Allen. So my theories were absolutely correct. It was Mara getting in the way because he felt bad about how Eli was benched for Geno Smith, and he wanted to give Eli one more kick at the can when that was a bad idea. When the Giants should have probably got rid of Eli a couple of years earlier. Not to say that he was a bad quarterback for us, but to say that unfortunately, he wasn't. His time was coming. So I was dead right about that. So I personally think that now the Giants are going to make a move not only to support Daniel Jones, but to also think about, all right, he's our quarterback now, but is he our quarterback for the future?
Exactly. And I think what happened with Eli Manning is a big reason why I think Tom Brady is leaning towards retirement because he know it ended badly for him. It didn't end really that great for Ben Roethlisberger with that playoff loss to the Chiefs. It didn't end great for Phillip Rivers. But to be fair, it ended good for Peyton Manning despite his play not being up to par because he ultimately came out with the Super Bowl. And Tom Brady, if he is to retire, it comes out good in his case because he led the Buccaneers back, but it's not his fault that they lost the game. They lost that game because they couldn't stop Matt Stafford in that Rams offense.
Yeah. I mean, let's take a look at it. Eli's like last few years, the Giants were dreadful. and they drafted a running back because they felt like it was a need to succeed. Even though I have been clamoring, I've said from 2017, I wanted Josh Allen. I've been saying this since 2017. I've actually watched Wyoming games, and I said that guy's going to be a star. And and at first, the rookie year, people thought I was crazy. And I was like, hey, it's a rookie year. Give him his time. And you saw the progression. And I said, ha, am I crazy now? So I said that the Giants should have had a quarterback since 2017, and that it would be a successor. Whether it was Patrick Mahomes, who look like, can we agree that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league? Yes. Josh Allen, is Josh Allen a top 5 quarterback in the league? Yes. Do I think Daniel Jones will be a top 10 quarterback? I don't think so. But can Dable make him serviceable? Yeah. Now, does serviceable get you a Super Bowl? No. If that was the case, Jimmy Garoppolo would have a Super Bowl on his own, not with Tom Brady. So I think at the end of the day, Madison, this is great for the Giants that you're focusing on the offense. You're building to be competitive because I think with how weak the NFC East is and how weak the NFC in general is,
Yup.
the Giants can compete for a playoff spot. Because look at the NFC. Like Aaron Rodgers potentially could leave to go to Denver.
Or
Brady
somewhere
potentially
else.
or somewhere else, right? Brady potentially is retiring. Who in the NFC scares you? Dallas is inconsistent. Like
The team
Washington
would
has a
beat the
quarterback.
team to beat would have to be Dallas. As crazy as that
Yeah,
sounds.
yeah, but is Dallas gonna put it all together? Because if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, wouldn't this be the season that Wouldn't this be the season that would be it with all the heavyweights now in the AFC?
Exactly. And another team we can't forget about in that conference is the Rams, who are on the verge of going to a Super Bowl. But still, you got to throw the Rams in there. They have a lot of rock stars on that team. There's a lot of pressure on them to come through tomorrow against San Francisco. So you can't disclose the Rams in any NFC future conversations than the
Oh,
next few
absolutely.
years.
Oh, absolutely. You got the Rams, you got the 49ers, even though they'll probably move on Jimmy G and they'll go with Trey Lance. Arizona's still a good team. You got some good teams, I'm just saying, but there's no juggernaut. Like the AFC got a lot of juggernauts.
Yup.
The NFC got good teams. The 49ers is a good team. The Rams are a good team. Dallas is still a good team, but there's no juggernaut. There's no Goliath. There's no like holy crap. I have to go face that team. If the Giants play their card right, they could be as competitive as any team in their division. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but if you can show me that you can be competitive, then you're moving in the right direction. And I think that's what we need as Giants fans. Just show competitive. Daniel Jones play more consistent. And then if that's the case, then you'll have this year, Madison. You're gonna have your answer if Daniel Jones is truly a franchise quarterback or not.
Absolutely. And before we go, who you got winning tomorrow in the two games?
In the early game, I got. I'm gonna go off the grid here. I got the Cincinnati Bengals.
Ooh.
I'm going off the grid here. I'm going a final score 35-32. I got Joe Burrow beating the Kansas City Chiefs. And then the nightcap, I got the LA Rams. I got Bengals Rams Super Bowl. I got Joey B versus Matt Stafford.
I am gonna go with the Chiefs and the Rams. And a funny subplot to this, I mentioned on the show on Friday, if this were to happen, don't forget the Rams used to be in St. Louis, so there's gonna be some people from the state of Missouri that may not be happy with the Rams. So it's like animosity from Chiefs fans or people that were Rams fans that turned into Chiefs fans because the Rams moved to Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, they lost. They lost a whole fan base when they moved. They lost a whole fan base when they decided to move from St. Louis to LA. And we all know why the NFL did it. They did it because they wanted to get a big market in LA. And honestly, LA does not care about the Rams or the Chargers. They truly do not care. So all the Missouri fans who were once St. Louis Rams fans, are now big time Kansas City Chiefs fans, and if you have a Chiefs fan Super Bowl, the entire state of Missouri is definitely rooting for the Chiefs.
Absolutely. And so, James, it was a pleasure to have you on the show today. Maybe we'll have you on in February or March at some point to catch up on some other things going on with our other sports teams and such. So it was a good time having you on tonight.
Of course, man. Take it easy, and thank you again for having me.
Absolutely.